I'm alive! Welcome back to my channel. I am going to film a little update of some of the things that I have been reading. I have not read a ton this month. It is vacation month. Nothing is getting done, but I thought I could do a little update. I have read 4 books this month so far, and I would love to talk about them. Let's jump into that. I seriously don't even have a tripod with me, so it might be a little shaky today. First thing to talk about is I read the book The Medici, Godfathers of the Renaissance by Paul Strathern, and I have thoughts on this one. All right, I'm gonna sit on the swing while I talk about this one. So, this was a really well-researched book. It covered all the Medicis from when the Medicis became a deal and then to the end of the power of the Medicis. And I learned so much in this one. So I definitely recommend it. Let's just give it a blanket good recommendation to learn a lot about the Medicis. Does that mean that it was a perfect book? No, I have some issues with the book, okay? So I think one of my main issues is that it was written in 2004. There was a point of view that was more acceptable in 2004 that I just don't feel like flies anymore. It just didn't work very well for me. So it had some kind of never really spoken, but there was some sexism that went on in this. The author focused so much on all the Medicis and was really thorough, but then he spent more time talking about Galileo than any of the women Medicis, and some of them had really big historical presence, I feel like there could have been more. And so that was quite the disappointment, just because I feel like he obviously had some sort of bias there. There was some very homophobic remarks that were put in this that I didn't really appreciate. I mean, I did appreciate that the author acknowledged that many of these Renaissance painters and figures were gay, especially I didn't learn about any of that in school. That wasn't talked about. But the way he talked about it, he kind of said that their problems as leaders, or these people's problems, all come down to being gay. It was a weird thing. At one point, I think the author he called somebody who was one of the artists who was not gay normal. And I thought that was a weird. Anyways, I just thought some of the language was a little strange. There was also a ton of fat phobia in this. Every single person he had to talk about how, oh, well, they were just bloated and disgusting and huge, and talk about their bodies in a weird way. And I'm just I don't want to hear that. It was weird for the time period, because from what I understand, in Renaissance times, being a little bit heavier was seen as beautiful. All those paintings were a little more of a curvy shapes, and he talked about anybody who might not be stick thin as being gross and bulbous, and I thought that it was a strange perspective. So I think those are my critiques of the book, but in general I thought it was excellent. It was really well done. It was just a couple comments and phrases that just started to kind of grate on me by the time I finished the book. So I think I would recommend this, but be aware that the author has some personal feelings on different parts of it. But I did learn so much about the Medicis, and it was super interesting, and I feel like it's something I haven't read a ton about. So I do recommend it, but if anybody knows any other books or better books about the Renaissance and some of the political goings-on, all the stuff with the Pope, it was super interesting. So I read the book When We Were Birds by Ayanna Lloyd Bunwell, and this is a recommendation from the channel ReadBecca, so I will link that down below. And this was interesting. It was different. It's definitely not quite like something I've read before. So this is a bit of a romance set in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's 2 different characters. One that has this family legacy. She can see when people die and has this connection with the dead. And the other one is a young man who was raised Rastafarian, and he is never supposed to touch the dead, but has to end up getting a job as a gravedigger, and them being brought together. So it was interesting. So something I found super interesting about this book is it was kind of told in a dialect, and I thought it was really well done. It wasn't just the dialogue that was told that way, like the whole book was, and it was really beautifully written. And I thought that it was really just excellent. Like, that was really good. The story, I don't know if I ever super connected to it. So I'm kind of on the fence. Like, I thought it was really interesting, really different, had some cool representation. I learned about things I hadn't thought about. It was really beautiful, but also I wasn't connecting to it. So I'm not sure about this one, but if you're interested, like, I thought it was a very interesting take on like Trinidadian English, which I think is something I haven't read very many books. So this was an interesting one to go for. I read the book Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. So I think this book hit me at the wrong time. So I read this book on an airplane, the whole thing, and I don't know if I was in the best of moods. I was just, you know, traveling. But it was an interesting one. So this is following, so imagine that the COVID pandemic hit, but it was super deadly and it killed basically everyone, and this is society rebuilding itself afterwards. So, I mean, interesting, and it followed a couple different characters and how their lives kind of intersect and what happens to them when, you know, surviving this horrible pandemic that kills everyone. I thought it was an interesting premise, but at the same time, I think I just am tired of pandemic talk, right? Like, I can't point to anything in this book where I think, oh, it wasn't well done, or, oh, the characters weren't done well. Like, I think it was a very well done book, very well written. I just am not in the mood for more pandemic, and I don't know why I read it. It just, you know, I had it on the plane, so read the whole thing. If you want to learn more and read more and think more about pandemics, jump in on this one. But if you, like me, are feeling a little burned down on that, maybe avoid this one. So I read the book The Grief Keeper by Alexandra Villasante, and this was a recommendation from Fran at Fran Nook in the Pages, and I will make sure to link her channel down below. This had a lot going on for it. So this book tried to do a lot. So we follow a young girl and her sister as they are coming to the United States to try to get asylum. They are running away from their country and from a very bad situation. Their brother is dead and they have to try to get asylum. They're in a detention center, and that's kind of where the story starts out. So the twist is that as they run away from a detention center because they think that their request for asylum is going to be denied, they run into this woman who says that she can make a deal with them, that if this older girl will agree to be part of some sort of medical trial, she can get her asylum in the United States. So the girl agrees. Now, this is where it gets a little more fantastical. The medical trial is where she has to wear a cuff around her ankle, and someone else wears a cuff around their ankle, and all of their grief and their depression gets transmitted into our main character, Marisol. And I mean, yeah, there's the fantastical elements, and I feel like there are so many different things that this could explore, but it was maybe a little more YA and never quite explored all the doors that this book opened up for discussion. But if you want a book with high stakes and some queer representation and a cute romance, I think you will love this book. But this book opened up so many different discussion topics that I don't think the author ever really, was able to explore. It could have talked a lot about, okay, the troubles in her home country and how she had to run away and the gangs and all that. Okay, there's one thing that all of this was talked about, but was it like really discussed or really, analyzed at all? I don't think so. Like, everything was a little bit skated over. I feel like it could talk about, medical trials and coercion. It could talk about asylum seekers and children and detention centers, and it's skated on all those topics. And I think that maybe it's good for a younger audience because it introduces people to a lot of different subjects that they may want to think about, and maybe they'll do more research. But I don't think the book ever really went into detail about any of those, if that makes sense. But it was like a very engaging read. I was very much wanting to know what was going to happen and needed to know what was going to happen next. Like, it was very good that way. So I do recommend this book. I just wish that there was, like, I almost need like a companion novel where it goes through and like takes a deeper look. I think towards the end things kind of got wrapped up in a certain way, and there should have maybe been some consequences or some real things for this like medical coercion plot line. I don't know. There was some that was missing, but overall I did enjoy it. And that is it for my little book wrap up. I am sorry for the shaky camera and the random locations. I will get back home with a tripod sometime soon, but I just wanted to do a little update, and please let me know what you've thought of these books and any book recommendations you may have, and I'll see you all on the next one.